we'll see the screen here. I mean, let's just go position by position. Starting the tight end, Dalton Schultz is the guy who's going to get some looks. The two big running back names, though, that will come off the waiver wire this week: the Ernest Johnson in Cleveland, Joshua Kelley in Los Angeles, and then a couple of wide receivers to note: Brandon Ayuk and T. Higgins, who we talked about earlier in the show. Still available in a whole lot of leagues, but I do think that's going to change in the week to come. But let's start actually at the tight end spot with Dalton Schultz, because Kimmi, we talked about this before. Adam Rank, credit to him, was very much on the Blake Jarwin train all summer long. Unfortunately, he suffered the injury and is out for the year. But it really looks like Dalton Schultz has jumped in, and he has not missed a beat so far.
He has, and it's funny because we want to give credit to Adam Rank, but I'm like, no, you jinxed Blake Jarwin. But in good news, Dalton Schultz is now getting all of the opportunity. Now, I know he's kind of a name that's been on the waiver wire a few weeks and a guy that we've mentioned. And if you're not buying in back then, you should absolutely buy in now. He caught 4 of his 8 targets for 72 yards and a touchdown on Sunday in that sad loss to the Cleveland Browns because Cowboys defense, what's going on here? But with Blake Jarwin out, there's a reason that Schultz has stepped up. And we can see that Dak Prescott is going to have to throw the ball to keep the Cowboys in the game, and he really does like using a tight end as one of those receivers. Now, a reason why I think Dalton Schultz should be such a big add on the waiver wire is because the tight end spot, a lot of guys are getting banged up. O.J. Howard is feared to be out for the rest of the season. Dallas Goedert is injured. Noah Fant got banged up, even though that's supposedly supposed to be minor. So in a position that's already stretched really, really thin, unless you have one of those best guys like Travis Kelce or George Kittle, you want to look to get Schultz into your lineup, because I do think he's going to be a consistent tight end 1, tight end 2 type of guy.
Dalton Schultz right now is the tight end 5, which says a lot about how they're using him. It does say something about the tight end position, because you go through the top 10 guys. I mean, look, we didn't expect Jimmy Graham was going to be a top 10 fantasy tight end. And we've had some interesting performances this year from the tight end position, but Schultz has consistently performed. And right now, I don't see any reason why things won't change. I mean, you talked to Kimmi about the Cowboys' poor defense and how it's forcing Dak Prescott to throw the football. So the opportunities are going to be there. The targets are going to be there. So if you haven't bought in on Dalton Schultz, it is about time that you do so, because I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. Another name that I mentioned that is going to be a hot waiver wire pickup this week is Joshua Kelley. We talked about him after week 1. He had that big performance and he freaked out a lot of Austin Eckler managers. The last couple of weeks, including on Sunday, have not been particularly great. He had a fumble, did not score a lot fantasy-wise, did not do a whole lot for the Chargers. But with Austin Eckler out for an extended period of time, Kimmi, this means that Joshua Kelley is going to get another opportunity to go out and try to produce.
He absolutely will, and he's actually one of my favorite guys to target on the waiver wire, not only because this boosts his stock because of the unfortunate Austin Eckler news, but again, we keep talking about the running back position has been fraught with injuries, and this is where a guy like Joshua Kelley could step up. But before Austin Eckler even got hurt, Kelley also was kind of producing just as well. He had 14 carries and a target that then turned into 75 yards from scrimmage per game. Plus, he's had a touchdown this season. So though the Los Angeles Chargers are going up against the Saints in week 5, that's a really tough matchup. You want to grab Josh Kelley, because then if you look to week 6, the Chargers take on the New York Jets, and that Adam Gase-led team is not doing so hot. They're just Jets being Jets. So I do think this is a guy to absolutely make a priority and to really target on the waiver wire. I think with this Austin Eckler news, that boosts his stock even more. So I am kind of buying into Joshua Kelley and hoping that once we get to week 5, week 6, he really does have that breakout performance, because he has a really good floor.
The good thing about Joshua Kelley is that the Chargers have shown faith in him pretty much from the beginning. I mean, it hasn't been an issue of sort of easing him in. I mean, from right from the get-go, they were giving him a pretty significant workload, both as a runner and a pass catcher. They were throwing him the ball quite a bit, and we saw him getting opportunities down near the goal line. Hopefully the ball security issues don't become a long-term thing and they start to trust him a little bit more, because the touches are going to be there for Kelley. So again, he's a guy who was out on the waiver wire in a surprising number of NFL.com leagues. So if you have Austin Eckler, or if you're just shorthanded at the running back spot in general, he's a guy that you probably want to look at this week on the waiver wire. In deeper situations, also keep the name Justin Jackson in your back pocket, because with Eckler out, Kelley's not going to get 100% of the opportunities back there. Jackson's going to be the guy that kind of slides in there and starts to take over some of that secondary role. So certainly in deeper leagues, Justin Jackson is a name that you want to know this week. The other name I mentioned, Ernest Johnson, and he was sort of a surprise, I think, in Sunday, in the sense that, once Nick Chubb went down, he came in and he sort of helped rest Kareem Hunt a little bit. Hunt was dealing with something of a groin injury. So I don't know what long-term the usage is going to be for Ernest Johnson, Kimmi, but I do think he at least should get some looks off the waiver wire, just because the opportunity, I think, is going to open up for him.
He should. And even though Kareem Hunt was incredible, Ernest Johnson actually did lead the team in carries. He had 13 carries for 95 yards. So again, if you look at that production, you have to kind of take note of it and realize that with this sad Nick Chubb news, Kareem Hunt, like you said, he's going to need to rest, because also defenses are going to be completely keyed into him, as that is the number one running back, and we have to stop him because of that elusive speed and that quickness that he has on the field. So this is where Johnson really can step up. I think it was promising to see the amount of carries that he got and the amount of yards that he could run. So again, a really good name, kind of deeper on the waiver wire, but a priority nonetheless.
He will be, he's a deeper on the waiver wire, but he's a name that people are going to learn, I think, in the next few days, especially as this Nick Chubb news starts to get out sort of in wider circulation and people are starting to make their waiver wire claims. All right, so now all of those names that we mentioned, which one of them, or maybe there's another one, will be the guy that you are prioritizing on your waiver claims this week?
The guy that I'm going to prioritize is, we chatted him earlier, I think Joshua Kelley has the best opportunity, especially with Austin Eckler being out. But another name that I think people should look at is Keyshawn Vaughn. Now, Ronald Jones is still going to be the number one back for the Buccaneers, but there's also been some injuries, right? Leonard Fournette and LaShawn McCoy are banged up and dealing with it. Tom Brady, we talked about him earlier. He's a little bit volatile as a passer right now because of those pick sixes and those interceptions. So Jones is going to continue to see the bulk of opportunity in the run game. Keyshawn Vaughn is also going to start to get some pickups, and I think he's a guy that, again, if you need somebody at the running back position, the horizons, the floodgates are opening for him.
Yeah, I'm curious about Keyshawn Vaughn, because he definitely was a guy that we were sort of trying to figure out earlier in the season. We had no idea what the usage was going to be. Then Leonard Fournette showed up and completely threw that out of whack. I definitely think that I'm with you in terms of using my top priority on Joshua Kelley this week, just because I think he's bound for a bigger workload than, say, Ernest Johnson or anybody like that. If you're stocked up at the running back position and you're not needing help there, then maybe you sort of shift that to a T. Higgins or maybe even a Brandon Ayuk. But I think for a lot of people, Joshua Kelley is going to be that guy that they target very heavily on the waiver wire this week.